What's up, freight brokers? I hope you're doing well today. Hope your families are well. Today I want to talk to you about some of the disadvantages of being a freight broker, of being an entrepreneur. Now, you hear a lot of good stuff about being an entrepreneur, about being a freight broker. There's certainly enough good stuff to talk about, but I think that's just a problem. Sometimes we just talk about the good stuff, and to me it paints the picture that you don't have any problems when it comes to being an entrepreneur. It's just all clear blue and 22, and it's roses all the time. And that's far from the truth. There's a lot that you will go through as a freight broker, as an entrepreneur. There's a lot of uncertainty. So I want to talk to you about that today. I want to talk to you about the 5 disadvantages of being a freight broker entrepreneur. So come on inside, sit back, relax, and let's get into the business. Now, when I first got started in my freight broker business, what I was hearing mostly in the business was how great it was. How you can come into this business and make your own way. You can be your own boss. You can schedule your own time. It's just a great business model. You don't have to spend a whole lot of money to come in. It was just the good talk, all the good talk about the freight broker business, right? And being an entrepreneur, how exciting that was. It would seem like being an entrepreneur, like once you become an entrepreneur, you just have it made. But that's not the truth, right? Don't get me wrong. It's great being an entrepreneur, but there's a lot of adversity you have to go through, especially when you're first getting started. I'm the type of person that I want to know the bad. Tell me the bad, because that way I know what I'm facing. I know what I have to deal with. Because how I look at it is this: anything that I go into, regardless of what business it is, there will always be some bad parts to it. And for me, I want to know what those are so I can go ahead and start to prepare myself, right? So let's go ahead and start talking about some of the things that are not so good about the freight broker business. Here's number 1. All right, so the one thing that we always hear is about how much time you'll have, how much free time you have to go out and go to your kids' events. You can do what it is basically that you want to do, because now you can control your time. Well, not really. Not when you first get started. You don't have control of your time, really. You're spending most of your time working on your business because you have a new venture and you don't know much about it. So when you don't know about something, your time will be spent learning about it, right? You don't have any customers yet, so you have to learn how to engage customers. That's going to take time. You have to spend a lot of time on your business when you first get started. I was spending about 12 to 16 hours a day on my business when I first got started. And the reason was because I didn't know anything about it. And when you don't know anything, you don't know how to make money. And what you have to do is learn the money-making activities, and that's going to take time. So this idea that you have all of this extra time is just not true. You don't have a whole lot of extra time. Matter of fact, most of my time was spent on the computer all day, working, trying to figure this thing out. And then I got the chance to take a little bit of sleep, and it was right back to doing this thing all over again. So it's not you that control your time. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. That's just how the cookie crumbles. It's the freight broker business that controls your time. It will take up most of your time. And I know you hear this thing about, oh, you shouldn't exchange time for money. Don't get into something where you're exchanging time for money. Well, you tell me something that you're not exchanging time for money. When you first get started in most of any businesses, you will give some time in exchange for money. That's just how it goes. Now, at some point, you may get away from that. You may start to manage your business differently. You may have a different type of business, but a freight broker business, you will exchange time for money. It's that type of business. All right, so now let's talk about the stress that we deal with as entrepreneurs. Think about it. When you first get started, all of the bills that you had are still the same. The mortgage is still the same. The utility bills are still the same. Nothing has changed as far as that is concerned. And you're making less money. As a matter of fact, in your new venture, you're not making any money at all right now. So I want you to imagine that for a minute. Think about the stress that comes with that. And then as the money manager, as the financial manager of your household, when you start a business, it will be a good idea to start cutting some of the fat. And your family probably won't take that very well to start cutting back things, right? Because when we get used to things, we don't want to see them cut back. But as a freight broker that's not making any money, you may have been making $5,000, $6,000 a month in your job, and now you're not making anything. So imagine that you go from $4,000 or $5,000 a month, whatever your pay would have been, and now you're at zero. Imagine the stress that introduces into your life. Imagine the stress that it introduces into your family. So I think it's a good idea to start talking with your family. Say, hey, before you get started, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about what's getting ready to happen. I think people really underestimate what you're doing when you're going into business. You're really making an entire life change. And if you don't talk about that, if you don't explain that to your family, then that's even more stressful for you and your family. So there's a lot of stress that you have to deal with when you first get started. But what might make that environment a little less stressful is conversations, talking to your family before you start your business, giving them a heads up, what they should expect, how long should we have to endure this type of environment. That way they understand better and they can better deal with some of the cutbacks that you'll very likely have to introduce. All right, next up, let's talk about the consistency within the income that you're bringing in. Let's say that your spouse asked you a really good question. Let's say they said, hey, Brandon, what kind of consistency should I expect with the income that you're going to be bringing in? Let me tell you what your answer should be. None. Zero, right? Especially when you first get started, you probably won't have a consistent amount of income, an amount of income that you can depend on every single month. The reason for that is because you don't have an established customer base just yet. What produces income in a business? What makes that happen? Customers make that happen. In a freight broker business, shipping customers make that happen. You have to be moving loads, and you have to move those loads on a consistent basis to keep income coming into your business. And we know how it goes in the freight broker business. Things happen. You could be working with a customer this week, and next week something happens and you're no longer working with that customer. Or you just may not be working with them as consistently as you were. Let me give you an example. We were working with a customer when we first got started, and we were moving consistent freight. We're making money. Man, we're feeling good about ourselves, right? Then all of a sudden, the shipper called and said they were stopping distro out of one of the facilities. And the reason for that was because they had a rodent outbreak, and it stopped it for 2 months. So all of the loads that we were moving out of that facility, which was a big amount of loads, they stopped. And we couldn't move anything out of that facility. So it cut our money, cut our consistency in the income that we were bringing in. So things happen. Sometimes things happen that you don't see coming. We didn't see a rodent outbreak happening. We hadn't planned for that. And when it happened, boom, it was it hurt. Like, man, we got to deal with this now. But that's just a part of it. Sometimes you're not going to see things coming, and you just have to roll with the punches, as they say. But expect that you are not going to have consistent income. Be prepared for that. All right, next up, I want to talk to you about responsibility. When you start a freight broker business, everything, and I mean everything, 100% of the responsibility for that business is on your shoulders. And unfortunately, there's nobody out there that's saying, you know what? Oh, that's Alliance Logistics over there. They're a new company. Let's see how we can put some loads aside for them to help them build their business, right? Because they don't care. Nobody cares about you in that way. It is up to you to move your business forward. If your business goes great, it's on you. If it doesn't go so great, it's on you. Everything is on the business owner's shoulders, so you have to be able to accept that responsibility and accept it completely and deal with the fallout, deal with the good, deal with the bad, deal with everything that comes with that. And sometimes that can be a bit overwhelming, so be prepared. Last but not least, it is so lonely as a business owner. Most of your time is spent on your business, working on your business, trying to make your business successful. And even when you're not working on your business, if you happen to spend time with your family, you're still thinking about business. It's so hard to turn your brain off. I remember times where I would sit down with family, and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about how to solve this problem that the customer has. How can I be more innovative? How can I be more creative in what it is that we're bringing to the customer? It's like you're always on, and it's hard to turn yourself off. You know, it's good to be focused. It's good to be focused on what it is that you are doing, but that can even become a problem sometimes because it just seems that you can't turn it off. It's really lonely when you first get started. You have to figure out how to give yourself the time that you need as well, because you just can't be a robot and be on all the time, because that's going to take a toll on you in the long run. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. I just want you to understand that being an entrepreneur is great. No two ways about that. It's a wonderful experience, but it's a huge, huge sacrifice, and we need to understand that before we come into it. Have a great day. Have a great rest of your week. If you're interested in learning more about the freight broker business, I'll leave a free link in the description. It's my 5-video series, and I titled it How the Load Movement Process Works. It gives you a chance to come into the office with me and watch over my shoulder as I move loads, talk to shippers and carriers to give you a better understanding of how this business works before you come into it. And then if you want to know more about how we go out and engage those customers, get shippers to do business with us, I'll leave a free video right here. So until the next time, I wish you the very best in your life and business. See you at the top, because the bottom is much too crowded.